The fire burns. The walls crack. The sound of trumpets echoes over the hills. Joshua stands before the gates of Jericho. The Bible tells us what happens next. The walls fall down. The city burns. The people inside are gone. This story repeats across the land. Hazor burns. Ai burns. The conquest is total. For thousands of years, this was the truth. The Canaanites were destroyed. They vanished from the earth. Their bloodline ended. Their cities became dust. This is the story taught in schools. This is the story told in churches. It is a clean story. It has a beginning and an end. Good defeats evil. The invaders take the land. The old people disappear. But stories can hide the truth. Textbooks can repeat mistakes. History is not always what we are told. That was the textbook version. Then, a lab in Sidon tested a specific thing. They looked at ancient bones. They pulled out DNA. The results did not match the story. The Canaanites were never destroyed. They are still here. The bloodline did not end. It changed. It survived. The conquest never happened the way we were told. The crack appears in the data. In 2017, a team of scientists published a study. They worked in Lebanon. They looked at the city of Sidon. This was a major Canaanite city. It stood on the coast. It was rich. It was powerful. The team found 5 skeletons in a burial site. These bones were old. They were from the Bronze Age. This was the time of the conquest, the time of Joshua. The scientists extracted DNA from the petrous bone. This is the hard bone inside the ear. It holds DNA well. It survives for thousands of years. They sequenced the genome. They compared it to other ancient samples. They compared it to modern people. The number was shocking. 90%. The modern people of Lebanon share 90% of their DNA with the ancient Canaanites. This number makes the myth impossible. If the Canaanites were wiped out, this number would be 0. If they were replaced, this number would be low. But it is high. It is almost total. The people did not leave. The people did not die. They stayed. They built the next generation. That was the first crack. But when they tested more samples, the pattern got stranger. The DNA did not just show survival. It showed mixing. It showed a world in motion. The Bronze Age was not a quiet time. It was a time of collapse. Empires fell. People moved. The DNA holds the record of this movement. It tells a story of survival. It tells a story of change. The question is no longer if they survived. The question is how did they survive the fire? How did they survive the sword? The answer lies in the dirt. It lies in the layers of the earth. The evidence builds in the ground. Archaeologists dig through the layers of history. Each layer is a page in a book. The bottom layers are old. The top layers are new. At Hazor, the layers show fire. There is a destruction layer. The wood is burned. The stone is cracked. This matches the Bible. The city was burned. But the people are missing. There are no bodies in the fire. There is no mass grave. There is no sign of a battle inside the city. The fire happened, but the people were gone before the flame, or they left after. The destruction was real. The genocide was not. And when researchers looked further, they found more. At Megiddo, the story is the same. Megiddo was a great fortress. It controlled the valley. It changed hands many times. The DNA from Megiddo shows continuity. The people in the Iron Age are the same as the people in the Bronze Age. They are Canaanites. They live in the same houses. They use the same pots. They worship in similar ways. The culture changes slowly. It does not break. The evidence moves from the north to the south. At Ashkelon, the story is different. Ashkelon was a Philistine city. The Philistines were invaders. They came from the sea. They came from Europe. The DNA at Ashkelon shows this. There is a shift in the DNA. There is European DNA in the early layers. but it fades. By the next generation, it is gone. The Philistines mixed with the locals. They became Canaanites. This is the pattern. Invasion does not mean replacement. It means mixing. The locals absorb the newcomers. The newcomers become the locals. This happens at every site. The pattern seems clear. Until they tested the women. In ancient burials, men and women tell different stories. Men often move. Women often stay, or vice versa. At some sites, the male DNA changes. The female DNA stays the same. This suggests men came from outside. They married local women. Their children were raised in the local culture. The father was a stranger. The mother was a Canaanite. The child was Canaanite. This is how the bloodline survived. It survived through the mothers. It survived through the culture. The name changed. The identity changed. But the people remained. The evidence seems overwhelming. But there is one problem nobody expected. The twist complicates the new story. The DNA proves the Canaanites survived. But who were the Israelites? The Bible says they came from Egypt. They wandered in the desert. They entered the land from the east. They were a separate people. They were distinct from the Canaanites. But the DNA says otherwise. The Israelite DNA looks like Canaanite DNA. There is no genetic marker for Israelite. There is no gene for Judah. There is no gene for Ephraim. The Israelites are genetically Canaanites. This is the twist. The conquest was not an invasion of people. It was an invasion of ideas. It was a split in culture. A group of Canaanites left the cities. They went to the hills. They stopped eating pork. They stopped burying their dead with gifts. They started worshiping one God. They became Israelites. They did not come from outside. They came from inside. They were their neighbors. They were their brothers. This changes the war. It was not a war of strangers. It was a civil war. It was a fight for identity. But here is the twist within the twist. There was some outside DNA. There was some influx. The Shaju, the Egyptian records talk about the Shaju. They were nomads. They came from the south. They might have brought the name of Yahweh. They might have joined the hill people. They mixed with the Canaanites. So the Israelites were a mix. They were mostly Canaanite, but they had a spark from the south. A haplogroup does not equal a nationality. You cannot look at a bone and see a flag. You cannot see a tribe in the DNA. You can only see ancestry. You can only see movement. The DNA proves the people stayed. It does not prove the story is false. It proves the story is metaphor. The story of conquest is a story of becoming. It is a story of choosing who you are. That contradiction changes everything. And dig sites across 3 continents prove exactly how. The deeper dig reveals the full picture. We must look at the wider world. The Bronze Age collapse was a global event. It happened around 1200 BC. Civilizations fell everywhere. The Hittites fell. The Egyptians struggled. The Mycenaeans vanished. Trade stopped. Roads were unsafe. Cities burned. This was not just in Canaan. This was everywhere in this chaos. People moved. They looked for safety. They looked for food. The Canaanite cities were targets. But the countryside was safe. The hill country was hard to reach. The people moved to the hills. They left the big cities. They built small villages. These villages became Israel. This is the settlement pattern. Archaeologists see it in the dirt. The number of sites jumps. In the late Bronze Age, there are few sites in the hills. In the Iron Age, there are hundreds. The population grew. But where did they come from? They came from the cities. They came from the lowlands. They were refugees. They were Canaanites fleeing the collapse. They created a new life. They created a new identity. This is the first case study, the hill country settlement. It shows internal growth. It shows no invasion. That was the hills, but the coast told an even stranger story. On the coast, the cities remained. Tyre and Sidon did not fall. They kept trading. They kept their culture. They were Phoenicians. They were Canaanites who stayed by the sea. They spread their culture across the Mediterranean. They founded Carthage. They founded colonies in Spain. They carried the Canaanite DNA with them. The Canaanites did not die. They sailed. They became the masters of the sea. Their blood is in Malta. Their blood is in Sicily. Their blood is in North Africa. The destruction was limited. It was inland. It was in the hills. The coast survived. The sea was a shield. That was the coast. But the south told a different tale. In the Negev desert, there were nomads. They moved with the seasons. They had no cities. They had no walls. They left little trace, but their DNA is in the mix. They mixed with the settled people. They brought new genes. They brought new customs. They were part of the Israelite mix. They were part of the story. They are the Shaju. They are the wild card. They are the link to Egypt. The Egyptian connection is key. The name of God comes from the south. The rituals come from the south, but the people come from the land. This is the synthesis. The Israelites were a new group. They were made of old parts. They were Canaanite farmers. They were Shaju nomads. They were city refugees. They united under a new idea. They united under a new law. That was the south. But the north held the oldest secrets. In Lebanon, the cedar trees still grow. The people still speak a version of the old tongue. Arabic replaced Phoenician, but the substrate remains. The genetic study of modern Lebanese confirms this. They are the direct descendants. They are the living Canaanites. They survived the Assyrians. They survived the Babylonians. They survived the Romans. They survived the Arabs. They survived the Ottomans. Every empire tried to change them. Every empire failed. The DNA is stubborn. It remembers. It holds the history. The full picture is more disturbing than any single finding. It shows that erasure is hard. You cannot wipe out a people. You can change their name. You can change their God. You can change their language, but the blood remains. The blood remembers the land. The blood remembers the ancestors. This is the lesson of the Canaanites. They are us. We are them. The division is false. The wall is an illusion. The reframe brings it all together. What does this mean for history? It means we must rewrite the books. The conquest of Canaan was not a genocide. It was a transformation. It was a cultural revolution. The Israelites did not destroy the Canaanites. They emerged from them. They defined themselves against them. They said, we are not them. But genetically, they were. This is the human story. We define ourselves by difference. We create enemies to know who we are. The Canaanites became the enemy. They became the other, but they were the self. This is the irony. The Bible records a war against ourselves. The tweetable insight is this: the conquest was not of land, but of identity. This sentence changes the view. It shifts the focus. It moves from bones to beliefs. It moves from death to life. The Canaanites lived. They live in the Lebanese. They live in the Palestinians. They live in the Jews. They live in the Syrians. They are the substrate of the region. They are the foundation. The DNA proved the continuity. It proved the survival. It proved the mixing. But there is one thing nobody can explain yet. Why did the story change? Why did the memory of survival become a memory of destruction? Why did the Israelites say they wiped out the Canaanites? If they were Canaanites, why lie? This is the open loop. This is the mystery. The DNA gives the fact. The text gives the fiction. Why the gap? Why the lie? Maybe it was politics. Maybe it was religion. Maybe it was to justify the land. If you say you destroyed the old owners, you own the land. If you say you are the old owners, you share the land. The story serves a purpose. The story creates unity. It creates a clean break. It creates a new start. But the dirt tells the truth. The dirt does not lie. The bones do not speak in metaphors. They speak in code. And the code is clear. The people stayed, the culture shifted, the identity formed. That is what the DNA proved. But there is one thing nobody can explain yet. The question remains for the viewer. We have the science, we have the history, we have the text. They do not match. Who wrote the text? Why did they write it? Was it one person? Was it many? Was it written centuries later? Was it written to inspire? Was it written to warn? The mystery of the text is deeper than the mystery of the bones. The bones are silent. The text is loud. It shouts of destruction. It shouts of fire. It shouts of victory. But the ground is quiet. The ground shows life. It shows continuity. It shows survival. Which do we believe? Do we believe the story? Or do we believe the science? Maybe we believe both. Maybe the story is true in a different way. Maybe the destruction was spiritual. Maybe the fire was in the heart. Maybe the conquest was internal. This is the challenge. We must hold both truths. We must hold the myth and the fact. We must see the complexity. History is not simple. People are not simple. The Canaanites are not gone. They are here. They are in the food. They are in the names. They are in the genes. Look at your neighbor. Look at the map. The past is not dead. It is not even past. It is living. It is breathing. It is in us. If you want to know more about the Bronze Age collapse, watch the next video. It explains the fire that burned the world. It explains the movement of the sea peoples. It connects the dots. Subscribe to join the journey. We dig deeper every week. We uncover the truth. We challenge the myth. But for now, think about this. If the Canaanites survived, who are we? If the enemies were us, what is war? If the destruction was a story, what is truth? The DNA has spoken. The bones have testified. The verdict is in. The Canaanites were never destroyed. They are waiting for us to see them. They are waiting for us to know them. They are waiting for us to admit the truth. The land remembers. The blood remembers. Do we remember? The silence of the grave is broken. The voice of the ancestors is heard. They say, we are still here. They say, we never left. They say, look closer. Look at the data. Look at the earth. Look at yourself. The story is not over. It is just beginning. The myth is broken. The truth is rising. The Canaanites live. And so do we. The question is not where they went. The question is why we forgot. Why did we forget them? Why did we erase them? Was it fear? Was it guilt? Was it power? The answer is in the dust. The answer is in the code. The answer is in the story. We must write a new story, a story of survival, a story of mixing, a story of life, not death, not fire, not sword, life. The Canaanites chose life. They adapted, they changed, they survived. We can do the same. We can learn from them. We can see the world as it is, not as we were told. The world is complex. The history is deep. The truth is hard, but it is worth it. It is worth the dig. It is worth the test. It is worth the wait. The Canaanites were never destroyed. Ancient DNA shows why. They are us. We are them. The circle is closed. The loop is complete. The mystery remains. But the fact is sure. The bloodline continues. The people endure. The land holds the memory. The genes hold the key. The lock is open. The door is wide. Walk through. See the truth. See the people. See the Canaanites. They are waiting. They are here. They are now. They are forever. The fire burned out. The walls fell down, but the people stood. They stand still. They stand with us. They stand in us. The conquest is over. The survival is real. The story is rewritten. The myth is dead. Long live the Canaanites. Long live the truth. Long live the DNA. The evidence is clear. The case is closed. The verdict is final. They were never destroyed. They are here. They are now. They are us. The end is the beginning. The past is the present. The dead are alive, in the code, in the blood, in the bone, in the breath, in the life. The Canaanites live. And so do we. The question is what we do with this truth. Do we hide it? Do we share it? Do we change? The choice is ours. The DNA is the map. The history is the guide. The future is the path. Walk it well. Walk it true. Walk it together. The Canaanites were never destroyed. Ancient DNA shows why. And now you know, the myth is broken. The truth is free. The story is ours. Write it well. Write it true. Write it now. The silence is over. The voice is heard. The people speak. They say, remember us. They say, know us. They say, we are here. We are the Canaanites. We are the survivors. We are the truth. The end.